Hey y'all, welcome back to Exile Wargaming, where today, and as always, we're going to be talking about winning with Harlequins in competitive 10th edition Warhammer 40k with a battle report against Drukhari. Now, I recently had the opportunity to get quite a few games in against Drukhari and a few extra turns as well to kind of simulate some different situations and scenarios. And what I found is that our two armies function very similarly. I put out a video last week highlighting some of the similarities and some of the differences, and today we're going to see how it plays out on the table. Now, we will be playing two different games over two different terrain layouts and two different missions, but the lists we've chosen will remain the same. So as far as the Harlequins go, we have a Solitaire, two Troop Masters, Yvrain and the Vizarch, both attached to an 11-man troop unit with fusion pistols and all the good stuff. We have 5 units of 5 troops. 2 of them will be attached to the Troop Masters in Falcons. The other units will be in 3 Star Weavers. Beyond this, we have 2 units of 2 Sky Weavers with Haywire and Star Bolus and 2 D cannons. Now we are coming in at 16 total units at right around 2,000 points on the nose. Now our opponent is bringing an MSU style Skysplinter assault force with 2 Archons in Drazar, Lilith, a Beastmaster, 2 units of Cabalite Warriors, and 10 Witches. Now, the Cabalites and the Witches will be split up by 3 Venoms. The Incubi, a 10-man unit, and 2 5-man units will be inside Raiders. Then he has a unit of Mandrakes, 2 units of 5 Scourges with Haywire, and 2 Ravagers. Now, they're coming in at 20 total units at 2,000 points on the nose. In our first game, I believe he had Lilith broken in half, that witch unit, in one of the Venoms. In the second game, it's a little bit different. But this list has so much flexibility with where his units can go and what he wants to do with them. He can put Cabalites with all the good weapons inside of Venoms and use the ability to disembark and re-embark at the end of the fight phase to kind of do a move, shoot, move with them every turn. Or he can put his combat units in the Venom and jump across the board. There are so many different options that Drukhari has. We'll see how our opponent decides to play them in the first game. We'll be playing Mission C on Terrain Layout 6, which is Linchpin, Fog of War, and Tipping Point for our first game. Getting into deployment on the Drukhari side, he really just spans out his army very similarly to the way that we like to in Harlequins, which makes a lot of sense because their units function very similarly as well. Right in the center, he has a Beast Pack. He has a Raider filled with a 10-man Incubi squad, I believe. Another Raider with Drazar is in Deep Strike. He has a Ravager back here, a Ravager over here, and then a Venom with traditional Cabalite Warriors, nothing with the good weapons. I believe the Cabalites with the phenomenal weapons are in one of the Raiders in Deep Strike and another one on the board up here. He has another Venom over here with some Cabalite Warriors as well, and then Scourges just spaced on the edges to react wherever they need to. I believe there is a unit of Witches in the back here as well, holding the home field objective. Lilith is also in strategic reserve with a unit of Witches inside of a Venom. Now on our side, our goal is really to get some of that symmetry, but be able to respond wherever we may need. Now, we are bringing back the D cannons in this game, and I could not be happier about it. I have felt lost a little bit without D cannons in my list, and it just feels so right to put them back on the table. So we have a D cannon positioned right here in the center behind this rune. If we need to, we can move it up on turn 1, and then we are getting shots everywhere, even towards a portion of their home field objective. We have another D cannon right here that we can move up into this rune as well. We have 2 Star Weavers on the bottom. One of these units of troops is most likely going to have to disembark early on in the game to hold the home field objective, and then we'll use that Star Weaver to help pick up troops maybe getting out of a Falcon later on. So we're just using the Star Weaver for some utility, and we're going to have the troops hold back. We have a Falcon in the back as well. There wasn't very many places I could have put it, and given that our opponent has the opportunity to really stage all across the board and create a lot of space, I didn't want to put it in deep strike and risk me having to drop it down or waste a command point rapid ingressing it into a position that I could have just started it on the first turn in. So we have a Falcon back here. We have a Falcon and a Star Weaver up here as well. And we have the Solitaire down on the bottom so he can get up to any point he may need. We're going to try to force our opponent onto this objective and just get them to trade somewhat efficiently. This is our kind of natural expansion, it feels like, even though this one may be a little bit more hotly contested down here. So we have Yvrane's unit with the Vizark and 11 troop right here in the center. My game plan right now, knowing that Lilith isn't on the board, is to get into his backfield as quickly as possible and take advantage of our fights first before Lilith has a chance to heroically intervene into anything necessary. So my plan in the beginning of this game is to really just crash this unit immediately wherever they can go and just hope that our opponent doesn't have enough firepower to deal with them in the following turns. Now our opponent wins the turn 1 dice roll and gets to go first. He draws containment and recover assets, so a very easy 9 points in secondaries for the first portion of the game. Not looking super great for us. Hopefully we can come back with a good set of our own. But he uses a unit of Cabalite Warriors up top here. I believe they're just basic warriors to contain on this side, and then another unit down here does the other containment action as well. The Scourges don't have any good targets right now. We rolled them out. He could jump them out here and fire into the Skyweavers, but then he's huddling up everything back here, so I believe he just leaves them right there. The Beastpack ends up scouting before the game begins, but then just huddles up in this portion of the board. He really cannot push into our lines because Yvrane is within 6 inches of this D cannon. It's the only thing that they would be able to charge at this point in time, and we would easily just heroically intervene and wipe out the Beast Pack. The Ravager moves and positions a little bit further back behind the rune, and then the 10-man unit of Incubi inside this Raider end up just coming back towards here as well. Everything else just kind of moves up and stages. The other Raider with Cabalites with good guns and Incubi just moves up to this wall so they can disembark and fight on this objective, it looks like, afterwards. Now, at the end of our opponent's movement phase, just seeing where everything was, that we were safe, we ended up phantasming Yvrane's unit. She got an extra 4 or 5 inches, I think it was 4, into this rune. And then in our first turn, we are just going to make the push. We got 2 6s, 2 5s, and a 1 on our fate dice. So we did very good. We had to re-roll after the first one. But we have a very easy, I believe it ended up being like a 7-inch charge into this Beast Pack. So we can get Yvrane's unit in there with a guarantee on the first turn. So it ended up panning out pretty well for us. But as far as sabotage is concerned, we use the Solitaire right here to sabotage this objective. We leave our Falcon in the back. We just move him up so he can't get any good angles. He is behind one of these runes. And then the Star Weaver comes up here, just poking its nose out towards this angle, and they fire into the Cabalites. We're able to bring all of them down. So 1 unit down, we got a bunch more to go. The D cannons both end up moving up into this rune over here. And I believe our opponent also had a unit of Mandrakes on this portion of the board. Now we use one of our Star Weavers. We advance it to get onto this objective. We are not going to be able to shoot or get the troops out or anything like that. And then we use the Sky Weavers as well to get some shots into this Viper that was hiding behind the rune. So we are able to kill the Viper, which was a little bit foolish on our part because I believe it only had OC1 and we would have contested it from our opponent last turn. Now we give them Cabalite Warriors on it and they're going to hold it. So we'll see if it ends up being a good decision later. But we bring down the Viper and the Cabalites get out along this side of the wall. Otherwise, the D cannons end up putting shots into this Raider and we are able to bring it down. All of the Incubi and a unit of Cabalites have to get out. So D cannons already doing some really good work in our shooting phase. In the charge phase, Yvrane's unit ends up making contact with the Beastmaster and all of their units, as well as a squad of mandrakes that they had positioned there for whatever reason, maybe to get, area denial or something early on, but just left them there. So we bring down 4 out of the 5 mandrakes. One was just pulled out of combat afterwards. The beast pack goes down pretty handily, though they have a lot of wounds, but we were wounding on 3s. There's upwards of 50 attacks coming out of the troops. The Vizark basically blows up anything that he touches, and then we consolidate into the Raider filled with 10 incubi afterwards. So we're going to see what happens in our following turn if our opponent has enough to bring this unit down. And our opponent's turn 2, they draw Cleanse and bring it down. Both of these secondaries are very attainable in this turn. He ends up putting a squad of incubi into the Venom up here and then moves it over onto our objective where he is going to contest it for the next turn. We are not going to score any points there. The solo Mandrake passes the Battle Shock test, moves up here, and I think the goal is to try to cleanse this objective on this side. The Cabalite Warriors end up cleansing down here. The Scourges jump out. They kill the Skyweavers down here with the devastating wounds, which was a little unfortunate for us. And then this Raider ends up firing into the Starweaver. We miss a save. He gets hot on the Dark Lance and blows up one of our Starweavers. So we let our troops out right on the objective. We're not going to be able to contest it this turn, but next turn we will be in very, very good position to make something happen over here. So we had a cleanse action here. I believe this Venom is cleansing up here. The Mandrake, I don't know what the plan was with this. It may have been to cleanse as well. So he did get 2 on Bring It Down, and we'll see what happens from here. The unit of Incubi with Drazar drops down right here. The Cabalite Warriors inside are going to end up firing into Yvraine's unit. Another unit of Cabalite Warriors moves up to move block Yvraine's unit, and the Scourges move out and over as well to move block so we can't get on their home field objective the following turn. So in the shooting phase, we use lightning fast reactions. Everything fires into our unit. Getting Cabalites and their big guns to hit on 5s, even with rerolls and power from pain, is not that efficient. It's like orc shooting. Same thing with the Scourges. They're all hitting on 4s naturally. We put them down to 5s. It felt really, really good. I believe we lost 5 or 6 of our Harlequin troops, and that was it in the shooting phase. They have no hope, and they threw grenades. They have no hope of bringing this unit down in combat. There is nothing that's going to survive Yvraine and the Vizark in their fights first afterwards, so we are in very, very good position at this time. Now, after getting only 3 points in secondaries on our turn 1, we end up drawing Extend Battle Lines and Storm Hostile Objective on our turn 2. So this is really the go turn at this point. We can pretty much bully our opponent right off the board and have this game wrapped up by turn 3 if we do it correctly. So at the top, we end up disembarking our troops from the Starweaver. We bring the Solitaire out over here in case he wants to bring anything else out, but mostly the Solitaire is just screening Lilith's unit from being able to drop in our backfield and take this objective from us the following turn. So Solitaire's not getting much action this game, but is definitely doing his part. The Falcon moves up to get angles on this Ravager right here, or it can fire into the Venom on this side. These Skyweavers both have angles into this Venom as well. So the Skyweavers end up bringing down this Venom. The troops end up firing a few of their shots, and I believe the Falcon as well into these Incubi and the Archon, and we are able to bring down the entire unit over here. This Falcon ends up putting shots into this Ravager. The Bright Lance does a pretty good amount of work, and I think one of these D cannons may have brought it down as well. So we blew up one of the Ravagers. We blew up a Venom. We killed a squad of Incubi, and then Yvraine's unit, Yvraine ends up bringing down all the Cabalites by herself. The rest of the unit, while still staying on this objective, fires into the Scourges, and we leave one remaining afterwards. So we are doing pretty good. Now, our troop that were behind the wall end up coming out here. and shooting into the Cabalite warriors. They'll end up charging after this and then hopping back in the Starweaver the turn beyond this. So we're going to have a full unit of troops in here and another unit of troops in this Skyweaver, just kind of activation locking our opponent for the remainder of this game. I believe one of these D cannons, it might have been this one, it might have been this one, ended up firing into this Raider as well, but I don't believe it ended up doing anything. We whiffed for that turn. In the charge phase, all we had to do was move our Starweaver and the Harlequin troop into the Archon up here. I think he only had one room remaining. We may have tank shocked. I don't remember specifically, but we were able to bring him down without taking any Harlequin casualties. And then your Vrains unit ends up charging backwards into the Mandrake to get on this home field objective. Our goal is just to outscore our opponent wherever we need. They do not have enough firepower now, especially after we brought back, I think, 2 of our Harlequin troops to bring this unit down with lightning fast reactions. So we can pretty much do whatever we want for the remainder of the game. We get rid of the Cabalites down here, and then our troops, like we planned before, get back inside of this Starweaver. Now they have a unit of 1 Scourge over here, and a Ravager and a unit of 10 Incubi to bring down both of these, and I just don't see it really happening. One of these units is going to be able to clap back on the Incubi the following turn, and if we really needed to, we can use your Vrains unit to just punch down into the Incubi afterwards, and we will hold all of the objectives. In our opponent's turn 3, they end up drawing Storm Hostile Objective and Defend Stronghold. Both of those they can get as well. So what they end up doing is moving the Raider with the 10 Archon all the way up here. They use a stratagem to get the Incubi out and charge. They were not able to bring the Falcon down with the Ravager ahead of time, but these Incubi end up bringing down both the Falcon with Lance and the Starweaver, and then our troops had to get out of each of them. So he ends up getting Storm Hostile Objective. They will take that from us right there. At the top, Lilith's unit ends up rapid ingressing last turn. She gets out, makes a push towards this objective. This Starweaver comes up, or the Venom, they're so similar. The Venom comes up to touch onto this objective as well. So if the witches get in combat, they can hop back into the Venom afterwards. All the same tricks and all of the same, shenanigans are going on here. A unit of Cabalites with big guns ends up firing into this Starweaver, and I believe they're able to bring it down. So we lose a Starweaver, 2 Starweavers, and a Falcon this turn. Our troops are exposed. We'll see if Lilith can really help make it happen. In the charge phase, as we said, the Incubi did really good work into the Falcon and the Starweaver. On the bottom, there was no hope for them, and there was absolutely no hope for our Harlequin troop and Lilith charging into them. She very easily brings down that troop and gets back in the Venom afterwards. In our turn 3, we end up drawing no prisoners and secure no man's land. So we're going to get a 10 on our secondaries this turn. Hopefully we get close to maxing them. That first turn was pretty rough for us, but it's been pretty nice ever since. So what we do here with your Vrains units, we just bring her up so she can shoot her devastating wound, D6 plus 3 shots, anti-infantry 2+ shots into the witches. If we can bring down this Venom, we move the Starweavers up. The Solitaire is here as well. And the Falcon moves up to get shots onto this Raider. We're just really planning and positioning to get the highest score in this game that we possibly can. So the D cannon ends up bringing down this Venom. The Skyweavers fire into the witches, and your Vrain fires into the witches and Lilith, and we are able to bring that down pretty handily. Our troops fire into the Incubi as well as another D cannon, and we're able to bring down, I believe, 5 or 6 of them. They rolled very well on their shots. Otherwise, everything else just pretty much has to stay the same, get near the objectives, and stay where they are, and we're going to run away with this game. In the charge phase, our Harlequin troops are able to bring down the Incubi very handily. I do not know if there's a more efficient profile point for point into Incubi than the Harlequin troops themselves. We get 4 attacks apiece, hitting on 3s. The lead player gets 5 attacks at -2 AP. If we have a troop master, we're getting another 6 attacks, which is 27 attacks total, and devastating wounds. Very realistically, could a 5-man troop unit and a troop master, even without rerolls, bring down a 10-man unit of Incubi and the Archon included, because we don't really have to worry about that 2+ invulnerable save. The devastating wounds will happen and roll over into him. So I don't know if there's a more efficient unit into Incubi, but every time, I've put the troops into him, I've just been nothing but absolutely satisfied. So at the end of that turn, our opponent had a unit of Cabalite warriors right here, a unit of Incubi with Drazar back here, and a unit of witches on their home field objective. They had 1 Ravager and a unit of Scourges down here. In the following turn, I believe they were able to score nothing on their secondaries because they drew Assassination and Mark for Death. The following turn, they would have gotten an overwhelming force and engage on all fronts, or Sabotage. There wasn't really much chance for them to catch up in the secondary game. We controlled everything in the primary game. Following this all up, all we had to do was push a range unit towards their home field objective. We could use the Solitaire to blitz into these Cabalites. We would have taken this. The troops could have moved into this position and got rid of the Scourge if we really needed to, or we could have just left it there because the Ravager is not going to get through an entire unit of Harlequin troops and their 4+ invulnerable saves for the rest of the game. We would have maxed out on our secondaries. Now I know at the bottom we ended up discarding 1 to see what happened, but this ended up adding up to I think 43 or 45 secondary points anyway. So we walk out the victor 100-49, and it was entirely on the back of your Vrain's unit. If you are playing against another army with fights first, something that can just really start decimating your lines, it's important to make sure that your Vrain and our fights first units are in positions to assist. If our opponent had Lilith on the board at any point in time, if they were backing up the Beast Pack, this would have been an entirely different game. We would have most likely traded unit for unit on the outer objectives. We'd have played chicken on the center objective until the D-cannons, came in. If they were able to start wiping out these units, that would have given us the advantage there. So again, fights first is a really, really big deal, but indirect fire into some squishy units ends up being the decider, I believe, in this game. So after that first game, we ended up talking about it, discussing some things that both of us may do differently, mainly that our opponent would do differently, and that is making sure that Lilith is on the board, knowing that your range unit is as tough as it is. So we decided to re-rack it. We reset up the terrain. We picked a new mission, and we're going to give it another go. In game 2, we're going to be playing on what is now terrain layout 2. The objectives don't look exactly like this. Most of them are L-shaped runes. This objective is a U-shaped rune on both sides, but is essentially the same deployment in Pariah Nexus. So we did use that map. Now, it is linchpin, raise banners, and search and destroy. So we'll be running out of our table quarters as far as deployment, 9 inches off the center. Linchpin means if you hold your home field objective, any other objective you hold will give you 5 points. If you don't have your home field, those objectives will give you 3 points. And raise banners is having a battle line unit on an objective at the end of a turn gets you an extra point. You can only do it, once per objective or unit, I believe. So a max of, 5 extra points each game. It does add up and could be a difference. Getting into deployment, we both adopt a little bit of a different strategy. Where my game plan is to be a little bit more cagey this game, just knowing that Lilith is right out there front and center towards this midfield objective. But we're still going to put your range unit here. If we can get into this rune and hold off, we'll be in really, really good shape. Our opponent has the Beast Pack up here that can scout and move block us turn 1. But really, against your range unit, I just don't see that being super beneficial. We can shoot down the Beast Pack pretty handily, pretty easily, and just start moving around some different things. But he has Lilith's unit to back it up right here. There is a Ravager out back, able to poke its nose out and, shoot down this firing lane, or it can poke out and get onto this objective. We want to start expanding with our Star Weavers. There are a unit of Scourges, both on this building and this building. This one can end up just moving out and holding this home field objective over here. They have a Venom with Cabalite Warriors right now, just basic Cabalite Warriors, and then 2 other Venoms with Cabalites, but these ones have the big guns in them. So he will be able to jump out the Cabalite Warriors, shoot something, and then get back into the Venom afterwards. He's basically just move, shoot, moving his entire backfield for the remainder of the game. So it's actually a very, very good strategy, it seems like. Then we have another Ravager right here in the middle, and we have a Raider with 5 Incubi, I believe, and Drazar over here. So there is 2 Ravagers and a Raider on the table, and 2 Raiders on the table, and then he has another Raider filled with Incubi 10 Incubi coming in from Deep Strike afterwards. On our side, we want to play a little bit cagey. We have the D cannon right here, but it's behind the rune markers, so we can't shoot it. But if we need to, we can move it out into line of sight and get those beautiful, 3+ shots, or be able to overwatch if we really needed to. We have a Falcon on this objective. This is really just so we can launch our troops out, maybe get rerolls if we needed, and then a Star Weaver down here as well. Now we got a little bit cheeky with the Sky Weavers right here. I don't know what I was thinking. I just didn't want to place them back here, and I didn't think there'd be a really good angle afterwards, but we'll see if that pans out. And then we have a Falcon, Sky Weaver, Star Weaver over here as well. So the Solitaire is right in the middle, I believe, right here, so that it can move on to this objective, or it can back up your brains unit, or it can heroically intervene if he wants to bring in, the Beast Pack or something like that to start charging our lines afterwards. Now our opponent gets the turn 1 win again and gets to go first. He ends up drawing Secure No Man's Land and Area Denial. So he's going to get 10 points on secondaries this turn, plus another 2 points for Raise Banners. He ends up moving the Venom from over here with the traditional Cabalite Warriors onto this objective. The Cabalites get out. We're raising banners, and he's holding the objective. I believe he advances the Scourge over here, and they're able to get back in this rune. And then he moves Drazar's unit in the radar up over here as well. So he's really just protecting this objective. The Beast Pack ends up moving on to the center objective. They're going to hold this. He's going to get area denial. There's nothing we can do about it. And then Lilith's unit just moves right back here to back him up. If we do want to get in combat with the Beast Pack, they are going to be able to heroically intervene and probably wipe a monstrous portion of our unit afterwards. He brings out both the units of Cabalites. These Venoms are able to push right up against the wall. The Cabalites get out, and they have the cheekiest angle onto these Sky Weavers. Another unit does it as well. You can see the Dark Lance over here does get it, and it does have range. And then the Ravager pulls up as well. Now we had Mandrakes positioned up here in the beginning of the game as infiltrators. They ended up just falling back behind this brick over here. So we're going to see exactly what we can do and what we're capable of, but these Sky Weavers are not part of our game plan anymore. They get wiped out on turn 1. Moving into our turn 1, we end up drawing Extend Battle Lines and Recover Assets. So we can walk away from this with 8 points in secondaries in the first turn, which is very, very good. Our opponent ended up getting a 10, so we should be able to make that happen. We also have troops on each one of these, so we're going to raise banners for an additional 2. Now, at the end of our opponent's move phase, we actually Phantasm Yvrane's unit up, and we rolled a 6, which was very, very nice. If we rolled a 4 or a 5 or a 6, it puts us in position to charge his backline pretty easily with a Fate dice. If not, it's okay. He doesn't have a ton of firepower, as we found last game, that can come down on this turn and really effectively deal with them outside of, the combat phase as well. So the plan is if we rolled low, we were just going to stage in this objective, contest the center. We have smaller bases. I think we could have got a little bit more OC on than our opponent could with their beast pack just because of those smaller bases. But if we rolled hot enough, we're going to push into his home field objective. There are 2 Venoms and a unit of Scourges over here. There's Mandrakes right here, and there's a Ravager here as well. Our Skyweavers move up. They put some shots into the Ravager. We are able to bring it down in combination with, I believe, the Falcon firing over here too. So we did really good work. We got rid of the Ravager. It did not blow up, but we ended up doing like 13 wounds or something to it. So that was pretty fun. We ended up moving the Solitaire over here. And then a unit of our troops out to the center to try to move block the beast pack. Now, this was just an issue of me thinking 2 different things, settling on one, and then forgetting on the back end. So originally, my goal was going to be to move block this section of the board and leave Yvraine's unit right here. But then we had a change of plans, and we ended up moving Yvraine's unit up and then still tried to move block anyway. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense. We end up firing our D cannons into the beast pack, and we bring down a good number of them. I believe we leave the Clawed Fiend and the leader and one of the dogs there as well. So we bring down all the birds and one of the dogs, and we get them -1 to hit for the following turn. Now the Solitaire again is right here to heroically intervene if our opponent wants to get cute and try to charge us. Solitaire will do some very good work into the witches, and hopefully we make enough saves to survive afterwards. But at this point we are moving on to the charge phase. In the charge phase, we end up moving Yvraine's unit into the Venom, the Scourges, and the other Venom. It was 6 on the Fate dice. We rolled a 4 beyond that. We got a good 10-inch charge. We're able to bring down the Venom and all of the Scourges, and another Venom down to 2 wounds. The Cabalite Warriors that got out of one of the Venoms ended up getting consolidated into. We move towards their home field objective to get into combat with that unit. So it's just something else that can't shoot us the next turn. After everything was picked up, the Venom, the Scourges, this is where we stand. In our opponent's turn 2, they end up drawing Assassination and Overwhelming Force. Now he discards Overwhelming Force for a command point and ends up getting Assassination, but we'll see how. He ends up moving the majority of his forces to deal with Yvraine and the Vizark and all of these Harlequin troops up here. The Mandrakes come in. The Venom disembarks its Cabalite Warriors. They get out over here. The unit of Cabalites that was in combat ends up falling back, and then the other unit of Cabalites ends up moving forward. A unit of Incubi gets out of this Raider, and Lilith and her witches start making their way towards them as well. They fire all their shots in. We have lightning fast reactions. They kill a few Harlequins, but the Venom tries to fall back. We Overwatch, kill that, and we're able to, it explodes, and we end up getting another Harlequin troop dead, a Mandrake dead, a Cabalite dead. So we end up bringing down a couple in Overwatch. That was pretty nice to see. Now at the bottom of the board, he ends up bringing his Cabalite Warriors out here, and fires into our unit of troops. And then the Scourges come out and fire into these troops as well. Our opponent rolled awful for both of these, and we ended up making our saves. We walk away with just 1 dead troop member. So that was very, very nice for us. And then he still has a few of the Beast Pack members right here. In our opponent's charge phase, he pushes everything forward. The Incubi and Lilith's unit, we end up fighting, but we had to split up our attacks as well as the Mandrakes. So the way that he ended up engaging us, we had to dedicate our attacks. Everything made base-to-base contact. So we had 3 of our Harlequin troops that had to go into the Mandrakes. We had a couple of them that were able to go into the Incubi, and then another few were able to go into Lilith's unit. We were able to bring down 3 or 4 of the witches. The Vizark used precision to try to kill Lilith before she got to attack everyone. She makes more than enough saves, and he only is able to do 2 wounds. So this is going to get pretty bad. The incubi were able to drop, I believe, 2 of them from the troops that were there. He made a lot of his saves. We didn't roll bad in any way, shape, or form. There was just too many units converging on us and too many attacks afterwards to really walk out of this. So after all was said and done, there's a lot of 2 damage weapons. Our Feel No Pain is very good against single damage weapons. It did some really, really good work against the witches, but the incubi were able to just outpace them. We lost the Vizarch and all of our troops. The only thing left is Yvraine, but she isn't touched at this point in time. Now on our turn 2, we end up drawing Engage on all fronts and behind enemy lines. These are not super great for us at this point. We actually scored behind enemy lines, but we shouldn't have. It should have been Engage on all fronts on the scorecard, but you'll see it won't make a big difference at all afterwards. So we end up using Feigned Retreat with Yvraine. We move the D cannon up so that it can shoot into these witches. We move a Star Weaver up that does not have troops in them. Those troops got let out back here on the home field objective, just trying to screen whatever we can. We have a Star Weaver up here with troops in it, and then the Solitaire just waiting in the wings right here. The Sky Weavers move out to get whatever angle they can, just hold this objective, keep our opponents honest, and the Star Weaver with our troops on this side just hold tight. So we have 2 units of troops still hanging out. We have an empty Star Weaver right here. We have our Falcon pushed up to the mid board to contest this objective, and our other Falcon is starting to push up as well. We're going to see what we can do in these next turns, but we really got to start catching up in the secondary department. When we get into shooting, the D cannon right here ends up firing into Lilith and the witches. He's able to bring down a couple of them. Then Yvraine, the thought is, oh my gosh, if I get like a 7 or an 8 on my shots, I can bring down Lilith and this will be just golden. We end up getting a 7 on the shots, but we don't roll enough 2s to wound. We ended up rolling like 3 1s. We got to re-roll 1, and Lilith is left alive on 1 wound, but we got rid of all of the witches. Moving on to the combat phase, we end up charging our Harlequins that shot their fusion pistols into the Beast Pack. We killed one of the dogs, into the Clawed Fiend and the Beast Master himself. We are able to bring down the Clawed Fiend. We bring the Beast Master down to 1 wound, and I believe they kill 1 of our Harlequin troops in return. Now, Yvraine just resigning herself. If I can take down as many units as I can while she's there, hopefully I can get some of my points back. Ends up charging a unit of Cabalite Warriors. We do kill 4 out of 5 of them, but the Incubi end up using heroic intervention, and they very easily bring her down afterwards. So we do lose Yvraine and that whole unit and that whole brick up there, but we ended up trading 2 Venoms for it, a unit of Scourges, a unit of Cabalites, and we almost got a unit of Witches and Lilith out of it. So it seems like a pretty fair trade at this point in time, as well as we've given ourselves the opportunity to expand all across this board now. Our opponent essentially holds this objective and their home field now, but not with much. In our opponent's turn 3, he ends up drawing Storm Hostile Objective and Bring It Down. 2 things he can get very, very easily this turn. So he really just comes out and makes the push. There is a unit of Cabalite Warriors that came out over here looking to put shots into the Star Weaver. We had the Raider with Incubi inside. They re-embarked, move up to this objective and contest here, fires into our D cannon and brings that down. It also has another unit of Cabalite Warriors inside of it. We have the 10-man unit of Cabalites move up. I think they rapid ingressed last turn right over here. Moves up into this rune, just kind of staging to start pushing us back afterwards. Lilith comes out with her single wound right here to just kind of protect everything that we can. And then the Raider with Drazar ends up moving up, disembarking its Incubi, and using the stratagem to allow them to charge afterwards. This is going to get pretty spicy, but as far as shooting was concerned, the only thing that we really took down was this Falcon over here, and that was brought down by the Ravager and these Scourges. Now, after that, there was no real firepower coming at us. What I noticed about Drukhari is, yeah, they have really good shooting, and they have really good melee, but their shooting doesn't have melee and their melee doesn't have shooting. They're really hyper specialized. So if you can force them to be in certain positions of the board, you're really safe to re-engage them afterwards at your leisure. I was able to just get these Harlequin troops out, and there was no worry about what would happen to them afterwards. Now, in the charge phase, Drazar's unit very easily brings down these incubi. There's still a Beastmaster under here as well, and they will regain this objective, I believe, by like 1 OC. The Venom is, I believe, empty, but it would have been able to get Drazar's unit back into it if we really needed to, but they needed the incubi and the objective to hold there. So again, it's just nice to have, but we'll see if it makes any difference later. The Scourges ended up having to move back over here. They couldn't get back behind terrain. But as far as the combat phase goes, nothing big. He ended up killing the Harlequin troops and taking the center objective. Now, in our turn 3, it's time to clap back. While we didn't have a whole lot of success with our secondaries last turn, we only got 2. We end up drawing Containment and Secure No Man's Land. So this should be an easy 11 points. This Starweaver and these troops, 6 points, very easy on this side of the board. We move the Skyweavers up here to get line of sight, and one of them is in Star Bolus range to fire into this raider. We position the Falcon down here after the troops get out and move towards the middle. This Starweaver ends up moving towards the center objective, so it can't fire this turn, but the Starweaver that was in the center ends up moving down here to get shots into the Swooping Hawks. Now, one of my favorite portions of this game right now was this unit of troops with the Troop Master outside of the Falcon. They end up moving up. We throw grenades at this raider, we fire our fusion pistols, and we're able to put down 12 wounds on the raider. So we bring it down. The incubi have to get out. We are in really, really good shape. This Starweaver brings down all but I believe one of the Scourges over here. And then the Falcon, the Skyweavers, and I believe D cannon end up bringing down the raider, or I'm sorry, it was the Skyweavers and this unit of troops and their fusion pistols bring down this raider. And then the Falcon fires into the incubi, getting out of it. We end up killing 4 of the incubi, so it's an Archon and 1 left over. So we are really starting to clap back. Our shooting is doing very, very good. The D cannon itself is the MVP. Finally gets the last kill on the Lilith unit. She had 1 wound remaining. Just for good measure, we ended up rolling a 6 for the devastating wound. She had no hope to save it. D cannons are incredible. Everyone should play them, at least 1 or 2. But let's get into the charge phase. In the charge phase, we end up moving the unit of Harlequin troops on the center objective into Drazar's unit, and then we use our other unit of Harlequin troops with the Troop Master to push into the 10-man brick of Incubi with the Archon. Now, we ended up starting with this combat up here. Afterwards, our opponent interrupted, and we'll see how that went. But this combat was absolutely incredible. It was 27 attacks. We're getting devastating wounds. The devastating wounds being able to roll over on the Archon afterwards was incredible. We put most of their Incubi on 5+ saves. Some of them had a chance at a 4+ save, but we very, very handily brought down all of them and the Archon with a 6-man troop unit, a 5-man with a Troop Master. So this 135-point unit in this game ended up bringing down a raider with grenades and fusion pistols and killed 225 points of guys afterwards. These guys are absolutely incredible. They're insane. Now, Drazar and his unit of Incubi end up interrupting, and they wipe out all of our Harlequins except for the Troop Master. The Troop Master claps back, and we're able to kill, I believe, 4 or 5 of the Incubi themselves, just missing all the saves, but we're putting them on 5 up, so it's not that unrealistic. Hitting on 2s with a reroll, wounding on 2s with a reroll is very, very nice. Our profiles are so efficient into them, and we're also getting some devastating wounds. So we did good. We didn't bring down Drazar, but we'll see, kind of where this continues to go. But right now, we are in phenomenal shape. Now, our opponent seems to be on the back foot, but at this point, he continues to draw relevant secondaries. He ends up getting extend battle lines and establish locusts. So he will get 5 on extend battle lines and he will get 4 on establish locusts. He just moves the Beastmaster out here, does the old-fashioned deploy teleport homers. He moves the Cabalites up to this center objective. They have 10 OC. They're going to hold that and take it from us anyway afterwards. These Cabalites continue to move up. They fire with power from pain and everything else and are able to bring down this Falcon with these other Cabalites. So he did bring down the Falcon. There is something to be said about that. Last turn, something that we missed was the Solitaire did end up blitzing and taking this objective from the Cabalite warriors down here. At the end of that turn, after all of the combat, the Solitaire ended up consolidating into the Ravager, took no wounds afterwards, and our troops that killed the Incubi ended up tagging this Raider and this Venom. So this Raider ends up, I believe, falling back, and then the Venom ends up firing into this unit as well. We make our saves. We are in really, really good shape there. In the charge phase, our opponent ends up moving his Archon and the solo Incubi into the troops. We use lightning fast reactions. We make a save and nothing happens. We don't lose a single guy. They end up clapping back. These 3, we kill the Archon and this Incubi. We end up putting 1 wound on this Raider, and then we put 1 wound on this Venom. The Troop Master and Drazar are just swinging back and forth at each other. I believe the Troop Master went to 2 wounds, and Drazar took a single wound this turn as well. So the Solitaire ended up just tanking a bunch of Darkland shots to his face. 3+ invulnerable is pretty nice. And we're at the point in the game where we are completely out of fate dice. We have used everything that we can with the Troop Master. We ended up rolling like a 6, a 5, a 4, a 2, and then 2 1s. And we have just been funneling those 1s and that 2 through the Troop Masters for the majority of this game. In our turn 4, we draw Storm Hostile Objective and Defend Stronghold. So we're going to get a 4 on Storm, and we're going to get a 3 on Defend Stronghold. We are going to run away with secondary this game. We end up moving this troop out. We want them touching, and we move this Star Weaver out as well. The goal here is really to just push our opponent, make sure that we're getting as close to 100 as we can. If this was a competitive game, I want to make sure that I'm getting as many points as I can. We understood that the game was over, but we've got to see kind of how far it's going to go. So this was all in good spirits. It was all just kind of a trial to see how far we can make it go. Now the Skyweavers end up moving here. Our goal is to try to take the home field objective from our opponent there. We fire the Star Weaver into this unit of Cabalite warriors. We end up missing a bunch of shots. We're only able to bring down 2 after their saves. The Troop Master falls back and gets into this Star Weaver. The Star Weaver fires into these guys, Cabalites in the center, and then our final unit of troops that was on the home field objective just make a push towards the center if they have to make a charge in the end game to contest this here. Our Star Weaver down here ends up moving in. We're able to bring down this Raider with our troops and the Skyweaver, and we throw grenades at Drazar. We end up getting 4 wounds off that grenade. Does pretty good. And then this D cannon ends up bringing down this Venom. All our opponent has left is the Ravager in combat with the Solitaire. And once we move to the charge phase, this unit of Harlequin troops ends up taking down the Ravager as well. So at the end of it all, our opponent doesn't lose enough Cabalites up top here in the combat phase to give us the objective, but the following turn he would end up losing it. I would say this ends up being a pretty decisive victory for the Harlequins. Unfortunately for our opponent, too many of our units were just too versatile. Being able to shoot and throw grenades and get into combat and fight against multiple phases against his toughness 3 single wound army is just a little bit too much. I highlighted a lot of this in the Drukhari video, but sometimes when we're looking at things on paper and we're theorizing things in our heads, we don't realize what it's going to translate to on the actual table. And I've been telling people for a long time that Harlequin troops are actually highly underrated. As long as you understand them and as long as you're not dedicating, a million resources to other things in your army, they're very good, but they're not very good on their own. They're good with support. They're good with lightning fast reactions. They're good with phantasm. They're good with grenades, and some fate dice here and there. But on their own, yeah, I can see why they're maybe not be incredible. But if you base your army around them, they can do some really, really good work. So at the end of it all, we end up scoring the game 97-74. Now this actually should have been probably 95-74. We messed up on our secondaries in turn 2. I should not have been able to score behind enemy lines, but it wouldn't have made a difference in this game. Overall, I think we have a ton of strengths into Drukhari as long as we understand what we're doing with our army itself, when to attack, when to stage, how to put yourself in position for success. I believe one of the most impactful units for us against Drukhari is Yvraine and the Vizarch in that Harlequin brick. I think it's such a underrated unit, but into something like the firepower that they have in combination with lightning fast reactions, it makes it very, very difficult for them to deal with. Being able to wipe out any one of their units with any one of our units, while also being highly efficient in cost, really changes the dynamic of the game, because our units are not super specialized, right? They can fight over multiple phases in the game. It just makes them feel a little bit more valuable than your traditional Drukhari units. Cavalite warriors with big guns are really, really good, but if they're hitting on 5s, how consistent can they be? How much of your game plan can you base around them? I think our Star Weavers are so much better than Venoms. Our Star Weavers being able to bring down their Venoms, but their Venoms not be able to bring down our Star Weavers is a really big deal. We have far more movement tricks than Drukhari. Like, yeah, they can blitz across the board in a Raider, get guys out and charge. It's like a 30+ inch threat range, but that's a one-trick pony, especially if you're just move blocking efficiently, or if you have something like a Solitaire nearby, or even an Autarch or your Vraine's unit to just heroic intervene into that unit afterwards. You really soften the blow and give them some really hard decisions to make. So yeah, they can move far, but I feel like we can move a little bit more. Being able to get in and out of our transports, being able to activation lock them means a lot. Wiping out a unit of Cabalites, let's say, and then hopping back on our transport means everything when the unit that is meant to trade with us afterwards is something like Incubi or Witches, because they can't bring down the Star Weaver. They can't bring down our transport. They have to do it in combat, or they have to ask for help from another unit on the board. So it really just allows us to play the game that we really want to play. It's very, very fun rolling a million dice. We're hitting on 2s. For a lot of them, we're wounding on 2s. There's so much damage won in our army, and they have so many, one wound models that everything just feels real kind of satisfying. And to be fair, we can almost match them for scoring units. Now, my opponent's army had 20 total units. I think they could have got up to 21 if they broke them up a little differently in the Venoms. And we were running about 16. With the D cannons, though, we were only running about 14. But because we had that transport protection, again, it just means that much more. So I think we do have a strong matchup into Drukhari. I do not know what Void Raven bombers look like. I can't imagine it being super great for us, but I don't know if those bombers are going to end up staying on the board more than a turn or two once they lay down. So they'll probably get 2 good turns of shooting, one of them at a time. If they're playing multiples, they'll probably get 1 good turn of shooting if they're firing one of them. So I'm not entirely sure, though. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, and I don't want to commit to anything that I can't really speak to. But I believe that Harlequins, again, have a very good matchup into Drukhari, and we'll go, from there. Hopefully we get a few more games in. Our opponent was selling his army. I'm very, very, very much considering buying it just to have it as something to cycle in with all of our games. It's also painted up very nice. If anyone's looking for a Drukhari army, let me know. This one, it had a few other pieces in it, some conversions, but if I don't beat you to it first, I'd be more than happy to connect you. Thanks again. Take care. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit of a long one. I don't normally get into hour-long videos, but This seems to be a discussion that I am very passionate about. Drukhari's winning. They're in the winner's circle. They're on the podium. And I believe that Harlequins are just getting looked over. There's a little bit of pride involved in this, but there's a lot of us out there who would love to see, a skilled player on the podium. I should be getting into a couple GTs here soon. In my local area, at least an hour or 2 hours away. So I will start posting results from those. I'm going to try to get into a couple RTTs before the work season gets a little too heavy. I am a father. I have a lot of kids. I take care of a lot of things. So getting out to tournaments super regularly is pretty difficult, but it's always nice to, set aside some time during the week to get some of these battle reports together. But I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Please like, share, subscribe, join the Discord. The link is in the description. And we'd love to talk to you. Thanks again.